Alone at the bus stop, a shivering girl was haunted by a whisper. "Can you be my mommy?" Forever, the chill of the autumn night wrapped around the bus stop like a thick, suffocating blanket. The streetlights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced in the flickering glow. A lone girl, no older than 7, stood huddled on the cold metal bench, her frame trembling from a mix of fear and the biting cold. Her wide, innocent eyes darted around, searching for anything that might ease the growing dread in her chest. The night felt alive, almost mocking, as if the wind rustled leafless branches just to whisper secrets. Every time a car passed, its headlights illuminated her delicate face, revealing glistening tears pooling at her lashes. Each soft sob was swallowed by the oppressive silence, echoing in her throat like a shout in a void. She had been waiting for what felt like hours. The bus was late, or maybe it had just never been scheduled at all. Alone, her thoughts spiraled into dark corners, reaching for the comforting arms of her mother, who was nowhere in sight. What kind of place was this where no one cared? Then, it came a whisper, soft but cutting, like ice through flesh. "Can you be my mommy?" The question hung in the air, chilling her to the bone. Who spoke? The emptiness of the night almost consumed her as she looked around, heart pounding, pulse racing. She strained to hear again, the weight of the words pressing heavily on her. Was it an echo or a trick of her mind? Panic seized her. She wanted to run, to escape, to find anyone who would protect her from the unknown terror creeping closer. Just then, a shadow flickered at the edge of the bus stop, a fleeting glimpse of dark clothing, and then nothing. The world felt unsteady, as if she might tip into some dark pit of nightmares at any moment. The girl's breath quickened, an invisible hand gripped her throat tightly. What if it was a ghost? Or worse, some real danger lurking in the night? The shadows seemed to conspire against her, their whispers growing louder as if tempting her into a trap. Silence slipped back as abruptly as it had come, but the tension was palpable. The air crackled, heavy with dread. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The girl fidgeted on the bench, sweat trickling down her spine despite the chill. Her lip quivered as the whisper returned, deeper this time, almost tangible. "Can you be my mommy?" It lingered, flipping her insides with fear and confusion. She squinted into the darkness, heart racing, every muscle tensed for a fight or flight. What kind of creature would ask such a thing? Hope and terror intertwined in her chest, and she felt paralyzed. If only the bus would come, if only she could escape this haunted moment. But the shadows hovered, hungry for her panic, waiting for her to crack. The night dragged on, and a feeling of something wrong consumed her. Slowly, a figure emerged from the black, stepping forward with an eerie grace. The streetlight flickering overhead buzzed ominously. Questions erupted in her mind. Who were they? Did they hear the whisper? She backed away, feeling the cool metal of the bench biting into her skin. Suddenly, her pulse quickened, and she realized the figure wasn't he alone. Behind them, ghostly outlines formed, malevolent shapes that twisted and turned, drawing closer with every heartbeat. The girl's breath caught in her throat. Who were they, and what did they want? As her heart pounded like thunder, the whisper called again, now surrounding her like a menacing specter of fate. Was there any escape? The bus stop felt like forever, and within that endless time, the girl was left wondering if she was truly alone. With darkness closing in, she could only hold her breath and wait. The girl pressed herself against the bench, her back racing against the unforgiving metal as if it could provide some form of protection. The flickering streetlight above cast grotesque shadows that danced across her tiny frame, turning her world into a nightmare of darkness. The figure stepped closer, a face gingerly poked through the gloom, sending tremors of fear coursing through her. "Can you be my mommy?" The voice, chillingly sweet, rang out again, wrapping around her like a wilting vine. It seemed to come not from the figure, but from all directions, twisting through the branches above and lingering in the falling leaves. She could feel the sharpened gaze upon her, dissecting her very being, and all she could do was shake her head frantically, her lungs struggling to find air. "No," she cried. Her voice trembled, and before she could brace herself, a wave of cacophony exploded from the darkness. Laughter, cackling voices erupted, blending into a haunting chorus. Figures moved with frantic energy, swirling like shadows of despair. She wanted to scream, but the sound felt stuck in her throat, heavy with dread. Instead, she curled up tighter, eyes darting, scanning for any glimmer of safety. One figure broke away from the swirling mass, stepping toward her. It was dressed in a ragged cloak that seemed stitched together from despair itself. The face was obscured by a hood, but she could see a pair of hauntingly pale hands reaching out, fingers extending like spider legs across the night. "Join us," it beckoned, its voice dripping with false affection. "You would make such a lovely mommy. We can keep you safe." Something deep within her screamed that this was wrong, that she was in the company of something unnatural. Her instincts twisted, urging her to run, but the weight of terror held her in place. She glanced at the road, where headlights barely pierced the thick gloom. What if she bolted and got lost? What if she never made it to safety? As if sensing her hesitation, the figures behind the cloaked figure surged forward, forming a wall of shadows, smirking at her fear. "You don't have to be alone," they whispered in unison, a mocking lullaby that made her skin crawl. "We're always here for you." In that moment, she felt a surge of rage. She couldn't let them win. Digging deeper, she pulled every ounce of defiance from within her and, in a shaky voice, declared, "Leave me alone." Silence blanketed the area abruptly. The laughter stilled and dissipated into ghostly echoes. The flickering streetlight buzzed nervously above her, creating a heartbeat of tension as she summoned courage. Gritting her teeth, she slowly stood, heart pounding, ready to break through the thick veil of terror that surrounded her. But as she turned her back on the figures, a chilling realization washed over her. What if they weren't just figments of the night? What if they could follow her into the light? With one foot planted firmly in defiance, she took a step down the bus stop, eyes fixed forward, willing to break the distance of fear. Then, out of nowhere, the whisper returned, this time louder, sharper. "When will you come home?" Her heart skipped violently in response, body frozen in place as her mind reeled from the impossible question. Home. Could she ever find it again? The lines between safety and danger blurred, and as she glanced over her shoulder, all that remained was the insatiable darkness stretching out behind her. She took a shaky breath and started walking, unwilling to look back, desperation clawing at her throat. And no longer was she merely waiting for that bus. She was running from something greater, something that could tie her to a fate worse than the uncertainty of the night. But just then, a figure flitted past the edge of the light, too fast to identify, and the shadows began to shift again. "Come play with us forever," it called to her, echoing beyond her reality. Each step felt heavier, encumbered by the whispers lingering behind her. Was the bus stop really her prison, or was this darkness far worse than she could have ever imagined? Stealing herself for what lay ahead, she forged onward, heart racing anew as the night tightened around her. What if the whispers grew louder, drowning her in their siren song? What would happen if she found no escape? As she pressed forward into the unknown, a lingering doubt pulsed in her mind. Was she truly ready to discover what lay beyond the shadows? The shadows writhed behind her, painted by the moonlight's pale glow. They coiled like serpents, eager to grab hold of her fragile spirit. The girl stumbled forward, suddenly aware that the road ahead narrowed into a foggy lane lined with trees that whispered secrets. Each step felt like a push against an invisible weight hanging heavily in the air. "Please," she murmured, almost to herself, pleading for strength. The night held its breath, and a breeze slipped through the trees, chilling her skin as she pressed on. But the soft, lilting laughter danced in her ears, growing more persistent, its gruesome melody intertwining with the rustle of leaves. Forever just then, her foot struck something solid, and she nearly lost her balance. Looking down, she saw a cracked concrete slab, likely remnants from a forgotten time. As she knelt to inspect it, tears brimming in her eyes, She spotted something half buried in the dirt, a small doll. Its glassy eyes stared unblinking at her, the paint peeling off its face like a dying flower. With trembling fingers, she picked it up, and her heart leaped as the laughter erupted around her, mocking her very existence. "Join the family," they intoned in a hissing echo. "You belong with us." The girl's stomach churned. She knew this was part of the trap. They wanted her to stay in the dark, to surrender her will. Anger surged through her veins. "No," she shouted into the night, the word charged with all her desperation. "I want to be a part of this." But the response was immediate. The laughter escalated, morphing into sinister shrieks that clawed at her mind, making the hair on the back of her neck stand up. She clutched the doll tighter, feeling an odd pulse radiate from it, as if it contained the heart of the night itself. It was her tether to reality, a desperate grasp on her humanity. With renewed resolve, she dashed into the deepening darkness, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she navigated the maze of twisted paths. Each corner turned came with the threat of a lurking figure, a grotesque silhouette promising endless despair. But somewhere deep inside, she felt the flicker of hope. Maybe she could outrun them. "Where are you going?" A voice pitifully crooned from behind. "You're just playing hide and seek." Her pulse quickened. This wasn't a game. She wouldn't let it become one. "I just want to go home," she yelled, her voice breaking against the howling night. The words reverberated through the trees, morphing into echoes that repeated her pain back at her. As the landscape shifted, she spotted a glimmer far ahead, a shimmering light cutting through the encroaching darkness. Was it real? Or just another illusion crafted by the night's wickedness? Hope warred against fear as she sprinted toward it, the laughter behind her now frenzied. "Home is where we are," they screamed, voices chaotic and overlapping. "Stay with us." She refused to listen, refusing to be chained by their ghastly promises. She would not succumb. And then, a figure stepped into her path, blocking her path to the light. A twisted face peered out from beneath a hood, its smile stretching unnaturally wide. "You're so close, sweetheart. Why not stay a while?" It stepped closer, each movement fluid and malevolent. She took a step back, heart racing, feeling that all her bravado was on the brink of shattering. Just when she thought she was cornered, the light ahead pulsated, intensifying as if sensing her fear. It felt like a heartbeat. Was it alive? "Don't worry," the figure rasped, closing the distance. "We can be your family. So much fun forever." Staring down that grotesque face, she felt her defiance simmer within. In an act of desperation, she raised the doll high in the air. "I want to join you." The chilling laughter faltered, faced with the simplicity of her resolve. For a split second, she felt the power in that moment, the ability to take control. But would it be enough to disrupt the darkness itself? The pulsing light flared one last time, revealing hidden pathways she hadn't noticed before. A choice loomed before her. Which way would she truly go? As her lifeline quivered in her grasp, the figure lunged toward her, shadows stretching like claws. "You can't escape." And in that instant, time slowed down. She had a decision to make. Would she break through into the light, or slip further into the darkness and become one of them? "Come back," they sang sweetly, hunger in their voices. With her heart pounding loud enough to drown out their pleas, she chose her path. But what if the light held secrets more dangerous than darkness itself? The figure lunged, sending a shudder through her core. Desperation clawed at her throat as she dove to the side, rolled, and scrambled back to her feet. Her heart hammered like a drum as she sprinted toward the light, now blinding her with its searing intensity. Shadows closed in on her, slithering like the very darkness itself sought to consume her whole. Just as she neared the pulsing brilliance, the air turned electric with energy, a vibrant heartbeat that echoed through the night. She could feel its warmth wrapping around her, but with a cruel reminder, the sinister laughter surged again, drawing her back into their abyss. "You think you can escape? Come to us, dear. We are your family." The words slithered into her mind. They were like icy tendrils of despair, threatening to suffocate her. She gritted her teeth and pressed on, every muscle in her body screaming as she forced herself forward. What lay ahead remained cloaked in mystery, but she sensed its potential in escape, perhaps. A fleeting hope twinkled like stars breaking through storm clouds. Suddenly, she heard a deafening crack. Instinctively, she turned. The dark figure had shattered through a nearby tree, its twisted face caught in the sheen of the moonlight, a grotesque mockery of her fear. "You can't outrun your destiny," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. Her heart raced faster. In that moment, she made a choice. She snapped her focus back to the light, casting all thought of the figure aside. She pressed onward, every step fueled by determination, a wild fire igniting her spirit. But even as she ran, the ground began to tremble beneath her feet, the earth quaking with a sinister pulse of its own. The pulsing light flickered ominously but drew her closer still. An inexplicable force urged her to reach out, to embrace whatever it offered. Yet, the laughter crept back, insistent and derisive. "You think we want to follow? This is just the beginning." She collided with the light, an explosion of color and warmth enveloping her. As she was pulled inside, shimmers of memory surged forward, faces of strangers, shadows from her past, loss and despair. Flashbacks, swirls of laughter, a loving embrace. Then terror, all intermingling in a cacophony of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. In the swirling chaos, one voice stood out, pinpricking through the noise, soft yet haunting. "Can you be my mommy?" It was childlike, innocent, yet filled with desperate hunger. Was this the lure of the darkness, a reflection of her own fears? A tether to the innocence she'd lost? The light around her grew dimmer as the shadows crowded in again, testing her resolve, laying open her deepest wounds. Please not again. She felt fragile, like glass about to shatter from the weight of the past. Suddenly, clarity broke through. The weight of expectation crashed over her, demanding to know if she would reach out for the voice, for the connection, or resist. Butterflies danced in her stomach as she weighed whether to claim this light as her sanctuary or flee back into the darkness that had plagued her escape. The shadows clawed at her, their wicked laughter mingling with whispers of longing and belonging. "You could have everything you desire," they cooed, luring her back with promises of comfort and love. Torn between love lost and the horror of becoming part of what haunted her, she realized the truth. She had to confront these specters that haunted her mind. Now more than ever, she recognized that her greatest fear was not the darkness itself, but losing herself within it. As the shadows coiled tighter around her, she prepared to break free from their deceptive grasp. The light flickered, desperately beckoning her to choose, to fight. But just as she felt the courage pulse through her veins, she caught sight of a mirror within the light, depicting a girl utterly lost. "Who are you?" she whispered to her reflection. And in that moment, all noise ceased, leaving an echo of uncertainty that reverberated through her soul. What would happen if she stepped further into the light? Would she lose herself, forever in its glow? Or could she finally emerge whole? The shadows loomed, whispering promises of despair. The decision hung tantalizingly close, ready to fracture her world once more. The mirror shimmered, its surface disturbing like water under a breeze. She gazed deeper, a pulse of fear wrapping around her heart. The girl in the reflection had wild eyes, her face framed by strands of hair that looked like tangled shadows. Was that her? Or was it a memory manifesting into something she couldn't recognize? For a heartbeat, she was frozen, caught in the pull between the light and the dark. Self-doubt wrestled with her instincts. What if embracing the light meant turning her back on who she was? What if stepping deeper into it closed the door on her past forever? "Mommy," the voice came again, thin and quivering like a fragile thread. It wrapped around her like the needy hands of a child, pulling her into the void. "I need you with every tick of time." The moment felt heavier, more defined. Every side of her screamed to run, but to where? Back into the shadows? Or forward into the light and its promising warmth? She focused on the girl's reflection. "I'm here," she whispered into the silence, a bridge stretching between their souls. But the shadows were relentless, their whispers growing into a cacophony. "You will lose yourself if you stay. You are nothing without us," they taunted, scratching at her mind. "You've already broken once. Why fight it?" The aura of comfort shifted in the light. It flickered and stuttered like a dying flame, familiar, yet agonizingly elusive. This was the point of no return. She could turn away and escape their grasp, but that voice, so innocent and pure, clung to her reason. How could she abandon that? Suddenly, the reflection morphed, and she saw a vision of herself no longer a girl, but worn and hollow. Don't become this. She screamed at the image, desperate to resist the pull they were exerting. You are stronger than this darkness. In that chaos of memories and whispers, something inside her surged the primal urge to fight, to reclaim her narrative. She had every reason to resist. The faces in her memories began to blend together, igniting the fire of defiance within her. You are not my family, she shouted into the void, the shadows recoiling as if slapped. The light flared in response, illuminating her with fierce brilliance. Every sliver of doubt, every drop of despair used to drown her now became fuel, crafting a shield around her. But as the shadows writhed, the sinister laughter transformed into an anguished wail. You cannot escape the truth. It screeched, as the ground beneath her roared in protest. Her heart thundered in her chest. She understood now that the darkness fed on her fear, her regrets, her very sense of self. Its grip was tight, but the light pulsed with something resembling guidance, urging her to leap, to let go of everything that chained her. With a deep breath, she clasped her hands together and shouted once more, I choose to live. This declaration surged through her, a shockwave. As she surged deeper into the light, power tingled in her limbs. She felt as if she was shedding layers of grief, of self-loathing, of expectation. Would this moment be enough to defeat the darkness that clung to her? The shadows recoiled, swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. Their promises started to unravel before her eyes as she delved deeper, embracing the fierce light. Yet, a single, chilling thought struck her. What if in this battle she lost not just her fears, but also her identity? Each step into the light felt gratifying, yet dangerous. She was sprinting towards something monumental, but would she have the strength to face whatever lay ahead? The darkness lurked still ever present, whispering of despair with a feral hunger, but the echo of her own words rang true, reverberating through her. I choose to live. What she didn't see would shake her to her core. As the brilliance enveloped her, a flicker of something dark skittered up from the depths, ready to claw its way into her new dawn. The light wrapped around her like a thick blanket of warmth, but it came with an uneasy weight. There was power here, sure, but it pulsed with an undercurrent that prickled at her skin. As she pressed on, a voice echoed in her mind, slicing through the comforting haze. You think you've escaped? The darkness isn't gone. It's merely biding its time with every step she took. The shadows around the edges of her vision flickered, almost as if they were alive, breathing and twisting, waiting for an opening. But the light burned brightly, and she felt a renewed sense of purpose lift her once weary spirit. Whatever you are, she whispered fiercely into the radiant glow, I will not be afraid of you anymore. Yet, just as she gained momentum, that same sinister voice returned, now a ghostly whisper, chilling her to the bone. You're not strong enough to face what comes next. Remember, your past is not simply a fading memory. It is a part of you, and it will not let you go without a fight. Those words ricocheted around her skull, each syllable like a hammer striking a nail, rigidly fastening her old fears in place. She swayed slightly under the onslaught, feeling the pull of the shadows again as they began to creep closer, seeking entry into her renewed self. Panic ignited inside her, creating a whirlwind of desperation. But then, a flicker of remembrance rushed back a scene from another time. She was in a sunlit park, laughter dancing around her as she watched her younger self twirl around, innocent and carefree. That was the girl she had always fought to protect. The girl she could still be if she could just hold on. A rush of defiance filled her heart. I'm done letting fear and shadows dictate my life, she said, her voice steady, breaking free from the cacophony of her doubt. I will find my way, and nothing you do can change that. The shadows shrieked, their dark energy crackling with rage. The light pulsed around her like an angry sea, boiling and crashing against the darkness. She felt the energy shifting, the tide was turning, and it was exhilarating. But just as she thought she could defeat it, a twisted figure emerged from the depths. It was an eerie silhouette that loomed in the corner of her eye, just on the edge of the light. With its shifting form, it stretched an arm toward her, its fingers elongated and claw-like, dripping with shadows. Come back to us, it hissed, the words curling like smoke, wrapping around her. You can't escape your truth. You belong to me. Her breath caught in her throat as her resolve wavered, the familiar terror creeping into her veins. She took a step back instinctively, but the light flickered, weakening for a moment. Would this be the moment she lost everything? No, she commanded, lunging forward into the brilliance, fighting against the grip of the figure, knowing this was an instinctive battle for her very soul. The world spun. The shadows lunged, pressing against her heart, filled with promises that tinged her thoughts with uncertainty. All the pain, all those years of heartache surged at once, a wave of memory crashing down. As she fought through it, her thoughts narrowed to a singular point. She could not allow this darkness back into her life. She mustn't. And yet in that moment of ferocity, an unexpected warmth enveloped her. A choir of tender voices emerged from nowhere, echoing around her. "Mommy, we need you," they pleaded, entwining with the shadows, luring her closer. Nausea gripped her stomach. Was that real? What horror awaited if she succumbed to it? As she gasped and steadied herself, the shadows writhed, intensifying their whispering call. "Mommy, can you come back?" The clarity of the little voice struck her hard, filling her with icy dread. What if crumbling to the shadows meant rediscovering everything she thought she'd lost? Would she dare find out? And at that moment, the realization settled heavily over her like a storm brewing on the horizon. She had a choice to make. Would she risk everything to embrace the light, or fall back into the seductive beckoning of the shadows? The crushing weight of the decision weighed down on her as everything began to fade, darkness swirling around as it reached for her. What would she choose? The shadows roared, their icy tendrils creeping closer, wrapping around her ankles like 1,000 grasping hands, pulling her down. The whispers twisted together, creating a chorus of sorrow that cut through her, seeping into her bones. "Mommy, don't you want to come home?" The voices were innocent yet tainted, echoing heart-wrenching nostalgia for moments long past. Her heart raced. "No," she screamed, forcing the word into the suffocating darkness, her voice trembling but fierce. "I want to let you back in." The brilliance around her flared momentarily, igniting the space. But the shadows surged, an unstoppable tide that slithered up her wrists, around her neck, tightening like a vice. Each pulse of the darkness felt familiar, wrapping her in an embrace that promised comfort, but she knew better. It was betrayal cloaked in kindness, and yet it was so compelling. Why abandon them? The figure taunted, looming, a grim smile stretching across its face, the shadows writhing like a tempest. You could have it all back: the laughter, the joy, the love. Memories sliced through her consciousness. Echoes of joyful laughter bounced around a sunlit kitchen, of small hands in hers, sticky with cookie dough, and bedtime stories whispered like secrets. "Don't you miss it?" The figure hissed, inching closer, its claw-like fingers grazing her cheeks, cold and unyielding. "You could bring them back if only you'd embrace what you've buried." She trembled, thoughts spiraling with doubt. Was this what she truly wanted? The warmth pulled at her heartstrings, a siren's song echoing with her past. Could she really reclaim that innocence, that joy? No. This time, her voice was a roar, beating against the shadows. "Those moments were mine, but they don't define me. I can't live in the past." She broke her gaze away from the figure's hypnotic eyes, focusing instead on the light that surrounded her. It flickered again, but was not yet extinguished. Gritting her teeth, she mustered every ounce of strength left. "You have no hold over me." The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage that stirred the very air around her, twisting the light in unnatural shapes, creating eerie forms that danced in malicious delight. The figure writhed, its previously confident demeanor faltering as the light fought back, pushing against the waves of shadow. It was as though the very fabric of her spirit was on trial, and she was its only witness. Willpower surged through her, a rush of anger, desperation, and invigorating hope. "I choose who I am," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos, determination igniting within her. The shadows recoiled, flickering like a flame struggling against the wind. They hissed, furious and frustrated. "You're weak. You cannot stand against your own heart." And just like that, the figure lunged forward, catching her off guard. The collision of light and darkness sent shockwaves through her mind as she felt both parts of herself crash together: the love for her children, the guilt of her choices, intertwined with the darkness that sought to swallow her whole. A pulsing ache filled her chest, a reminder of everything she had lost and hoped to regain. With a final desperate gasp, she made her choice. I am strong enough. I will not be defined by loss. She extended her hands, connecting with the light, drawing it close, drawing power from the memories of joy, not sorrow. Suddenly, the light burst forth, blinding in its glory, enveloping her properly as the shadows shrieked and twisted violently, retreating like a flood. Yet, as they receded, the figure remained, eyes burning with fury, but there was something else, a glimmer of disappointment, as if losing her was a betrayal it could hardly comprehend. Breathing heavily, she sensed the shift. Though she fought the darkness, the past still whispered in the shadows. But power surged inside her, bolstered by her resilience. She could feel it, a chance to rewrite her story, to finally set her truth free. Now, show me what I must face, she declared, the weight of her past clinging fiercely yet unyielding. Just as she steadied herself, a distant rumble echoed, threatening and ominous, shaking the ground underfoot. The space around her shimmered, as though the very essence of reality was bending. Was she ready for what came next? As mist gathered in a swirling vortex at her feet, the familiar voice tenderly called once more, beckoning like a soft wind, "Mommy, it's time to come home." And just then, the earth trembled, a crack splitting the very ground, and she knew the shadows weren't done yet. What ancient truths waited for her at the edge of that gaping fissure? The fissure widened, a dark canyon gaping beneath her feet, the whispers now urgent, filled with a twisted sense of longing. "Mommy, please," the voices intertwined, dancing between terror and a false sense of comfort. Each word trembled in the thick air, luring. Her heart pounded like a war drum, a fierce rhythm battling against the chaos around her. She took a step back, fear clawing at her chest. "What do you want?" she yelled, trying to steady her breath. The darkness shifted, roiling openly, as if mocking her confusion. The figure, still shrouded partly in shadows, spoke again, its voice dripping with mockery. "What do you have to offer? You only further your own isolation." It gestured toward the abyss, where the pale light flickered and danced, taunting her. "Everything you ever wanted lies back there in the shadows of your longing." But behind those words lay an insidious logic. She fought to remember why she had chosen to forget, why she had let the pain fester instead of embracing the memories she treasured. The shadows swirled with a hunger, fed by her doubts. "You're alone now. You can't do this, not without them, no." The word burst from her lips, fueled by each memory of laughter, joy, and love. "I won't fall for your lies." Her hands shook as she focused on the light, summoning the warmth that had flickered within her. Pushing back against the icy grip of despair, the ground shook, a tremor that felt like the very essence of her past quaking beneath her. She felt the remnants of love, the echoes of bedtime stories, the smell of fresh cookies, the tiny hands in hers. They surged into her now, filling her heart with strength like a wildfire bursting into life. "Mommy, don't you want to hold them again?" The voice grew desperate, weaving its way into her heart. The shadows thickened, a living entity desperate for attention. Imagine the warmth of their embrace. Why fight it? No. This time, her voice pierced through the encroaching darkness. "I won't succumb to grief again. I'll cherish the light they brought me instead." With every fiber in her being, she steadied her resolve, and the dark abyss became a mirror, reflecting her battered soul. The figure twisted, desperation turning to rage, lashing out like a wounded animal. "Then you'll lose everything. You'll never see them again." Its shriek echoed with the force of a tornado, sending shards of icy terror spiraling around her, but she felt might rising within her. The whispers may taunt, but they could not break her spirit. Her breath steadied and she stepped closer to the fracture, light spilling from her, pushing against the shadows. "Maybe I won't reach them now, but I will carry their love forward. I will be the mother they need, even in their absence." A flash erupted, illuminating the chaos, and she thrust her hands forward. The light roared like a lion, pushing against that which sought to consume her. Shadows recoiled, thrashing violently but struggling to sustain their presence. A haunting laughter rippled through the air, fading into a whisper. "You think you can break free?" The figure narrowed its eyes, a frantic desperation clinging to its fading voice. You are bound by the thread of your own making for a moment, she faltered, doubt clawing back into her mind. What if she could never shake free? What if she remained chained to the darkness, destined to haunt the empty corners of her past? The fissure pulsed, vibrating with an echo. It promised secrets still buried deep within. The truth. Maybe I'm not meant to break free, she whispered, the realization weighing heavy in her heart. Maybe I'm meant to learn from it. And as she took a trembling step toward the chasm, the shadows coiled tighter, as if sensing her shift. A roar filled the air, shaking her to the core, but instead of fear, she felt a flicker of understanding. Show me, she demanded, unyielding. Show me what I need to face. Just then, the ground beneath her wavered and splintered, and the shadows drew back momentarily, revealing glimpses of what lay within the darkness. Memories and visions danced on the edge of her. Consciousness fragments of joy intermingled with festering regret. And as clarity dawned, she held her breath, knowing this was just the beginning. What would the shadows reveal? What truths would emerge from the depths? Each heartbeat echoed like a warning, urging her forward into the unknown. The fissure trembled beneath her feet as she teetered on the brink of discovery and despair. The shadows pulsated like a living beast, eager to engulf her in their insatiable hunger. Each edge of darkness flickered with potential secrets. Each whisper beckoned her deeper into forgotten memories. Mommy, the voice slid out again, a serpentine hiss that twisted through the air. It slithered into her heart, igniting painful thoughts she'd buried. With every echo, a part of her strained to listen, to remember, to reach. Stop, she shouted, the tremor of her voice silencing even the cacophony inside her mind. I won't let you twist my love into chains. She inched closer to the divide, her pulse racing as the shadows reached for her. The darkness writhed, threads of black wrapping around her ankles, cool and clammy. Love? The figure mocked, its tone now a blend of sarcasm and venom. What is love but a weapon? It shapes you and then breaks you into pieces. The more it spoke, the more she felt the pieces of her heart shatter anew. Love made me strong, she yelled. It keeps me alive, even in this aching loss. She clenched her fists, holding on to the warmth of laughter and the soft glow of family moments, birthdays, hugs, quiet nights spent reading together. Those memories became her armor, fierce and bright against the encroaching void. Those are only illusions, the figure creaked, the shadows shifting into forms that resembled her children, their faces distorted by sorrow. Don't you see? They're gone. You alone are left to grieve. Her chest tightened, the rawness of their absence pressing down like a tangible weight. She could feel the urge to succumb, to sink into the darkness and let it wash over her. But no, she drew strength from every tear she shed, every memory she cherished. I will not let grief overshadow love. My heart remembers abruptly, the ground split wider, a deafening sound like the crack of thunder rolled through. The fracture deepened before her, roaring with the voices of lost dreams and vanishing hopes. She swallowed hard, feeling its pull, yet even as the fear bubbled within her, she took another brave step forward. Face it, she commanded, her voice steadying as an aura of light emanated from her. You can't control me anymore. The abyss emitted a low growl, as if benched by her will, and in response, she felt warmth blossom within her, a gentle reminder that her losses could coexist with the love she still held. That a myriad of images poured from the darkness, swirling like a fierce gale. She saw her children laughing, running free, their smiling faces lighting up every shadowy corner. For each vision, a new wave of emotion washed over her: pain, joy, loss, love, the full cycle of a life once lived and colored. In the midst of the chaos, a flicker of something caught her eye just beyond the abyss. It glowed bright, a fragment of former days, pure and shimmering. What is that? She whispered, entranced. The figure surged forward, another frenzied scream clawing through the darkness. No, that light is a lie. It will blind you. But she felt the pull of hope, a vine wrapped solidly around her, lifting her up. No, she breathed. It's my truth. The shadows howled, writhing as they became desperate to reclaim her. You'll drown in the light. Solo, She let out a defiant laugh, the sound almost exultant. I'd rather drown in love than linger here in this emptiness. As she stepped closer, she could almost touch the light. Its warmth rippled through her, drawing her ever forward. But even as she reached for it, a chilling wind swept through the fissure, and deeper shadows gathered. A thunderous roar echoing something thrummed not only in the air, but in her very bones. What lies beneath that light? The voice was now soft, almost a whisper, heavy with a miraculous allure. Far more than you can bear. With each proclamation, a part of her trembled. What was waiting for her in the depths beyond? What could possibly stand as the guardian of the light she was so desperate to touch? Just then, the darkness coiled tighter, a snapping trap, and she felt herself getting pulled back. Desperation surged, then a sudden realization struck her as she prepared to leap. Maybe it wasn't just about reaching the light. Maybe it was time to confront what lay hidden in the shadows. "What are you hiding?" she demanded, and within her voice was the strength of a mother's love, a force unmatched. The fissure rumbled again, promising answers shrouded in secrets. What truths were waiting to be uncovered? What dark corners needed illumination? And as she steeled herself to dive deeper into the unknown, the shadows whispered back. "Are you ready to lose everything?" They taunted, their voices a cacophony of distorted memories that surged like waves crashing against her spirit. Each word echoed, striking at her like steel, urging her to falter. But she stood firm, her heart pulsing fiercely in her chest. "No," she cried into the void, her voice ringing with defiance. "You have no power over me." The shadows shrieked, recoiling momentarily from the force of her declaration. But she felt the darkness inching closer, whispering promises that felt too sweet to ignore. Think of the warmth they crooned, voices silky and seductive, spinning tales of laughter and love. She could almost picture it, the joy of family, the touch of small hands in hers, the precious memories dancing just out of reach. You could hold them again, feel their love, their need for you. That temptation gnawed at her, a cruel reminder of all she had lost. For a brief moment, she wavered, wrestling against the bittersweet nostalgia that wrapped around her heart like a shackle. But even among her longing, she could clearly see what their promises truly meant: surrender. She would not become a puppet of her pain. Drawing from the well of her love, she called out into the darkness, "They are my stars. Even if I cannot hold them, their light lives inside me." The shadows shrieked in fury, thrashing around, their icy tendrils clawing at her resolve. "You're lying to yourself." They lashed out, sending waves of sorrow and grief crashing over her. And as she stood there, a spark ignited deep within her, born from the essence of pure memories, the laughter shared over bedtime stories, love exchanged in tiny gestures. They weren't just a series of lost moments. They were a living testament to her strength. With renewed fury, she pushed back against the darkness, fighting to rise above it. "I will not drown in grief. I will honor their memories, not succumb to despair." The shadows screamed as light flickered brighter within her, illuminating the fissure and revealing the horrifying truths hidden beneath. Shapes twisted in the distance, echoes of failure, loss, and sorrow, haunting her with every tremor. Yet their grasp was not as strong anymore. "Face what you've done," they bellowed, rage swirling around, battling against the warmth gathering at her core. But she remembered. She remembered how, even in the depths of her pain, she had sought help, struggled to carry on, to protect those she had loved, even when the journey held them dearly. That was her truth. "I accept everything I am, all the darkness, all the love. I embrace my past so I can forge my future." Suddenly, the shadows shrieked, swirling violently around her as if a storm had risen. The figures lunged closer, threatening to consume her. "Mommy, can you save us?" A small voice broke through just as the darkness slithered toward her, hungry for her surrender. She gasped, "Don't let the darkness fool you. I'm with you. I'll always be with you." Tears formed in her eyes, not from despair, but from the power of love coursing through her. "I'm coming," she shouted, feeling every word ignite her being, infusing her with light. As the shadows lunged for her heart, she summoned the light inside every memory, every spark of joy. "I choose to remember. I will carry their love with me." A brilliant eruption of warmth flooded her senses, and in that moment, She felt it a connection that stretched beyond this realm, binding her to those she thought lost. The darkness reeled back, shrieking in terror, unable to withstand the force of her heart. With a final mighty roar, she stepped into the fissure, letting go of her doubts as she embraced the luminous warmth that heightened around her. No longer stuck in the past, she pressed on, her love and sorrow balanced, a testament that even shadows could not steal away. She arrived into a garden of light, a serene landscape where laughter echoed through the air like music. There, standing before her with open arms, were her children exactly as she remembered, glowing with joy and love. "Mommy!" they shouted in unison, rushing to hug her, warmth flooding her heart. "I found you," she whispered, kneeling down to hold them tightly. "I never lost you. I carried you with me, even through the dark." In that moment, she knew she would always honor their memory, living for the love they had shared. Darkness may linger, but it would never define her again. As the realm around them shifted, a comforting light enveloped her, promising a new beginning. The suffocating shadows receded, swallowed by the love that forged her story. "Thank you for choosing to live, Mommy," her children whispered, their voices fluttering like wings in the still air. "Here is where you belong." And standing firm in that embrace, she realized love never vanished. It just transformed, creating a power that could shatter the fiercest darkness. She let their warmth wrap around her like a protective cloak. She took a deep breath of freedom, knowing she was finally home. Now that you've reached the end, you need to subscribe now so you won't miss any future exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm some love. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.